Okay, welcome back. So I'm talking about the Toulmin theory, and we're using this example that cocaine and heroin should be legalized because legalization will eliminate the black market. And this portion is about warrants. Warrants, I think, are the toughest part of this theory, and the reason they are is because warrants pretty much equals assumptions. So the underlying assumptions that your argument makes. And this is tough for a lot of folks. And that's because, and the reason for that is we have a way of thinking that other people think like us, okay? And that's what when you assume something, that's what's going on, right? And I don't know if you know the old saying about when you assume certain things happen, break that word down, you'll figure it out. It's an old joke, all right? Something about it, outside of you and me. But when we look at assumptions, and so when you're creating your argument, if you can find a way to sit down and be honest with yourself, what are the underlying assumptions that my argument makes, and if you can be as extensive as possible. If this is part of your writing process, your brainstorming process, you'll be able to construct a fuller and richer and ultimately more successful argument. Okay? And I'll give you just another example from here. So let's say that I'm making an argument to someone that education funding should be increased across the nation. And maybe my reason is something simple like United States is falling behind in education, right? So one of the real basic underlying assumptions in that particular argument is that education matters. So if my opponent, the person I'm trying to persuade, doesn't believe that education matters, we've got problems. But if I assume that that person believes that education matters and I don't address that, I've got even more problems, okay? Don't assume beliefs. Values and beliefs, this is what makes it so complex. It all boils down to how we were raised, where we were raised, what our parents taught us, and all these things, all the things that go into forming our values and beliefs. And that's where assumptions come from, okay? So what I've done here is I wrote down a few warrants, a few of the assumptions that this argument makes. And obviously there's a lot of them. But one of the assumptions that this argument makes is simply that the black market is bad, okay? Will the person I'm trying to persuade agree that the black market is bad, okay? And depending on my audience, and this is where audience is so key to a successful argument, I have to know that. Another assumption that this argument makes is that cocaine and heroin are the only things on the black market. And as we all know, that's not true. You can get a nice stereo on the black market, stolen iPod, a baby, washing machine, other drugs, guns. This is what I hear anyway. I don't normally shop in the black market, but there's other things on the black market. So how am I going to convince my audience that these things are the only thing in the black market? Because if we get rid of these things, will the black market still exist? And so how am I going to do that? And then another warrant is that getting these drugs at a 7-Eleven, if they were legal, will be less harmful to society than the black market currently is. So these are some of the big assumptions that this particular argument makes. And usually when I present this in class, students have much more to add to this list. And there's all kinds of little assumptions. So you want to think of as many as possible, but for board space reason and for time constraints, I just went with these 3 big ones. Thank you.